Hello, my friend. Today, I want to share a story set in the frozen plains of 1873. A story about a woman judged by silence, a warrior torn between love and tradition, and a choice that challenged an infertility. This is not just a story of waiting. It is a story of courage, dignity, and a love that refused to break. Now, let us begin. The winter of 1873 settled over the plains like a held breath. Snow stretched across the land in pale, unbroken sheets, dulling sound and softening edges, as if the world itself had chosen silence. In that quiet lived Naya, her footsteps light against the frozen earth, her thoughts heavy with a sorrow she carried alone. 4 winters had passed since she became Akacheta's wife. 4 cycles of sun and snow, of dawn prayers and evening fires. Their homestead had known warmth, shared laughter, gentle teasing, and the quiet intimacy of 2 lives woven together. At night, they spoke of the future in low voices, imagining seasons yet to come. But one sound never filled their lodge. There was no child's laughter, no small hands tugging at blankets, no soft cries greeting the morning. At first, hope had been easy. Elders reassured her that the spirits worked in their own time. Other women spoke kindly, reminding her that many mothers had waited years before conceiving. Naya believed them. She trusted patience the way one trusts the turning of the seasons. But patience wears thin when watched too closely. As years passed, glances lingered longer. Conversations fell quiet when she approached. Women her age began to carry children bound to their backs, their laughter punctuated by soft coos. Younger wives swelled with life, bellies round beneath their dresses. Each birth was celebrated, each cry a reminder of what Naya could not give. She tried everything. The healer burned sage and sweetgrass, chanting prayers older than memory. Naya bathed in cold streams at dawn, fasting until her body trembled. She pressed her forehead to the earth and begged the spirits to see her, to hear her. Still, her womb remained silent. Akacheta never spoke harshly. He was a respected warrior, known for his strength and calm judgment. His name carried with honor throughout the valley. When others whispered, he defended her. When pity followed her like a shadow, he stood taller beside her. Yet even he could not escape the weight of expectation. Lineage was survival. Blood was continuity. Love alone, the elders warned, could not carry a people forward. That night, the fire burned low, embers glowing like fading stars. Snow whispered against the lodge walls as Akacheta finally spoke, his voice restrained but heavy. "The council has spoken," he said. Naya felt the words before she understood them. Her chest tightened, breath catching painfully in her throat. "They fear the future," he continued. "They say a warrior without an heir leaves a broken trail." Tears slipped down her cheeks, unbidden and hot against the cold air. "I have given you everything I am," she whispered, "but I cannot give you a child." Akacheta did not answer. He turned away, jaw clenched, eyes fixed somewhere beyond the fire. His silence cut deeper than anger ever could. That night, they lay beside each other, close enough to touch, yet impossibly distant. Duty and devotion wrestled within him. Grief and shame curled tightly within her. No vows were broken aloud, but something fragile cracked in the quiet, and the silence that followed was heavier than winter itself. Morning came without comfort. The sky hung low and gray, and the air carried the bite of snow yet to fall. Naya woke beside Akacheta, aware of the space between them, before she opened her eyes. His body was there, solid and familiar, but his presence felt distant, guarded, as though part of him had already stepped away. In the days that followed, life moved forward with cruel normalcy. Fires were lit, meals were shared. The tribe continued its rhythm, but Naya felt as though she were walking through a world slightly out of reach, as if she no longer belonged fully to it. Akacheta stayed away, longer than before. He rose before dawn and returned after nightfall, his days filled with training, council meetings, and obligations he never spoke of. When he did speak, his words were careful, measured, stripped of the warmth they once held. He no longer reached for her hand as they walked. His eyes passed over her face instead of resting there. Naya did not accuse him. She did not beg. Pride held her upright even as loneliness hollowed her from within. The council's decision soon became known, though no one spoke it openly to her. In the tribe, news traveled like wind through tall grass, quantid, swift, impossible to stop. A second wife would be chosen for Akacheta, a woman young and strong, capable of carrying his lineage forward. No one said Naya's name when they spoke of the future. Women greeted her with gentle smiles, voices softened by sympathy. They treated her swanily, but kindly, like someone already grieving. Children who once ran to her now hesitated, glancing toward their mothers before approaching. Even the elders' gazes carried a strange finality, as though they were already preparing to let her go. She remained under Akacheta's protection, still honored as his wife, yet honor without belonging felt empty. She was present, but no longer essential. A wife in name, a memory in the making. One evening, as the sun dipped low, and the sky burned with streaks of orange and red, Naya walked near the communal fires. Laughter drifted through the air, mingled with the smell of cooked meat. She slowed as she passed a small group of women, their voices hushed but urgent. "She is young," one said. "Strong hips, she will bear him sons." Another sighed. "It is sad, but this is the way of things. A warrior must think of his people." Naya stopped walking. The words settled into her chest like stones. Years of endurance, of quiet hope and silent shame pressed down on her all at once. Something inside her, something she had stretched and mended too many times, finally gave way. That night, she did not cry. Tears felt useless now. She gathered a small bundle, a blanket worn thin at the edges, dried meat wrapped in cloth, a knife shaped to her hand. She moved carefully, deliberately, as though guided by instinct, rather than thought. The homestead felt unfamiliar, like a place she had already left in spirit. She looked once at Akacheta as he slept, his face calm in the firelight. For a moment her resolve wavered. But staying meant becoming a shadow, and she could not endure that slow erasure. If she could not be chosen, she would choose herself. Before dawn, while the tribe slept beneath the weight of winter, Naya stepped into the open plains. The cold wind stung her face, sharp and unforgiving. She did not look back. Behind her, unseen and unknowing, fate shifted and began to follow her footsteps. The plains opened before Naya like an endless breath, wide and unforgiving. Dawn crept slowly across the horizon, pale light spreading over frozen grass and snow-crusted earth. She walked without a path, guided by nothing but the need to keep moving. Behind her lay a life that no longer had room for her. Ahead, only uncertainty. The cold seeped into her bones. Her shawl, thin from years of wear, offered little protection against the wind that swept across the land without mercy. Each step grew heavier as the hours passed, hunger gnawing at her stomach, thirst tightening her throat. Still, she pressed on. Stopping felt more dangerous than exhaustion. To stop meant to think, and thinking would lead her back. By midday, the sky darkened. Clouds gathered low and heavy, smothering the weak winter sun. Naya's legs trembled, her breath coming in shallow bursts. She had not realized how much strength she had spent simply enduring the years behind her. Grief, she learned now, carried a weight of its own. She stumbled upon an old settler trail, barely visible beneath snow and ice. Broken wheel ruts scarred the earth, a reminder of people who had passed through and vanished, leaving only traces behind. The sight unsettled her. She felt suddenly small, exposed, and very far from home. As the light began to fade, her strength finally failed her. Her knees buckled, and she fell hard against the frozen ground. The world spun as she lay there, staring up at the darkening sky. For a moment, she wondered if this was how stories ended, not with fire or glory, but quietly, unnoticed. The wind rose. At first it was a low moan across the plains, then a sharp howl that cut through her thoughts. Snow and sleet followed, stinging her face and hands. Thunder cracked overhead, startling in its sudden violence. Naya dragged herself upright, panic lending her borrowed strength. Nearby, half buried beneath snow, stood the broken shape of a wagon. Its frame was splintered, one wheel torn away, canvas flapping wildly in the wind. She crawled toward it, fingers numb, breath ragged, and pressed herself beneath its shattered shelter, just as the storm broke in full force. Chaos erupted around her. Voices shouted in the darkness, harsh, unfamiliar tones carried by the wind. Horses screamed in terror. Shapes moved beyond the veil of rain and sleet, shadows twisting in flashes of lightning. Naya held her breath, fear freezing her more completely than the cold. She was not alone. She peered through a gap in the broken boards as lightning split the sky. She glimpsed figures struggling near the wagon, settlers, wounded and desperate. Their journey violently ended. Panic and confusion ruled the storm, and Naya knew better than to reveal herself. A lone woman had little safety here. Then a voice cut through the chaos, deep, steady, familiar. Her heart lurched painfully as recognition struck. Akacheta! The name carried on the wind, unmistakable even beneath the thunder. For a moment, she thought exhaustion had conjured it, a cruel trick of longing and fear. But then she heard it again, closer this time. He had followed her, not as a warrior answering a call to battle, not as a husband bound by tradition and council law, but as a man driven by fear, fear of losing the one soul who had truly known him. Naya's breath caught as she watched his silhouette move through the storm, searching, calling her name with a desperation she had never heard before. The plains that had felt so empty moments earlier now seemed charged with fate, as if every step she had taken had led her here. As thunder rolled and rain lashed the earth, Naya realized the road she had chosen was not meant to be taken alone. And the storm had not come by chance. The storm wrapped the plains in violence and noise, but beneath the shattered wagon, time seemed to slow. Rain and sleet battered the broken boards overhead, each strike echoing like a drumbeat. Lightning flashed again, illuminating Akacheta's face as he stepped into the shelter, breath heavy, hair soaked, eyes wild with fear and relief. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They stood only a few steps apart, close enough to touch, yet burdened by everything left unsaid. The storm roared around them, but the silence between them felt louder. "I followed your tracks," Akacheta said at last, his voice low and unsteady. "You left before dawn. I knew—" He broke off, swallowing hard. "I knew if I did not follow, I would lose you." Naya wrapped her arms around herself, not just against the cold, but against the surge of emotion threatening to undo her. "You already lost me," she replied quietly. "You let them decide my worth." Lightning flared, throwing stark shadows across the wagon's splintered walls. Akacheta flinched, as though the words had struck him harder than the storm. "I was taught that duty comes before all else," he said. "Before desire, before fear, even before love." His hands clenched at his sides. "But when you walked away, I felt something tear inside me. I realized I had mistaken silence for strength." Naya's voice trembled as years of restraint finally cracked. "I waited," she said. "I endured every look, every whisper. I carried their pity like a mark on my skin, and you stood beside me. But you did not stand for me." Akacheta stepped closer, rainwater dripping from his clothes onto the frozen ground. I was wrong, he said, the words heavy but certain. I let duty silence my heart, and it nearly cost me you. Thunder rolled overhead, long and furious. Naya met his gaze, her eyes bright with unshed tears. I am not broken, she said fiercely. I am not cursed, and I am not less because my body did not answer when the tribe demanded it. He nodded slowly, listening, not interrupting, not defending himself. For the first time, she felt truly seen. You were ready to replace me, she continued, as if love could be exchanged like tools, as if years together meant nothing. Akacheta's shoulders sagged. I was afraid, he admitted, afraid of the council, afraid of failing my people. But I was more afraid of losing you, and I did not understand that until I nearly did. Another flash of lightning illuminated the plains beyond the wagon, revealing the battered settlers being aided by others in the distance. The storm began to ease, its fury slowly draining away. When the thunder finally softened, Akacheta spoke again, his voice steadier now. I will not accept a future built on your pain. I will not take another wife to satisfy fear. Naya searched his face, wary hope stirring within her. The council will not allow it, she said. You know this. I know, he replied, but I will challenge them. The words hung between them, bold and dangerous. No warrior before me has done so, he continued, but I would rather stand alone with truth than live surrounded by tradition that destroys what it claims to protect. The storm passed, leaving the plains washed clean beneath a fractured sky's day. Cold air settled in its wake, sharp and quiet. Akacheta reached for Naya's hand, hesitating just long enough to ask without words. She let him take it. Beneath the clearing skeethlight, a choice had been made, not only to return, but to fight. Not with weapons, but with truth. The council gathered beneath a ski still bruised with storm clouds. Elders sat in a wide circle, their faces carved with age and authority, their expressions unreadable. The air carried the weight of tradition, unchallenged for generations, unquestioned until now. Akacheta stood before them, tall and unarmed, his posture steady. Naya stood beside him. She did not lower her gaze. She did not bow her head. She stood as an equal, not as a woman seeking mercy, but as one claiming dignity. Murmurs rippled through the gathered tribe. No warrior had ever brought his wife before the council in defiance of its will. This alone marked the moment as dangerous. One elder spoke first, his voice slow and deliberate. You were granted honor, a wife, respect to it, and still you question our judgment. Akacheta lifted his chin. I question fear, he replied, not wisdom. A hush fell over the circle. A tribe survives through love as much as blood, he continued, his voice strong but controlled. You have taught us that strength is not only found in the spear, but in the heart that wields it. Yet you would have me abandon the woman who has stood beside me through every season because time did not move as quickly as you demanded. Another elder leaned forward, staff pressed into the earth. Without heirs, a warrior's line ends. This is the way of our people. And without justice, Akacheta answered, our spirit ends. The words stirred unease among the gathered crowd. Tradition had always been their anchor, but now cracks showed where certainty once lived. Then Akacheta spoke the truth the council had not expected. The woman you chose for me did not choose this, he said. She was promised without her voice being heard. She wept when she was told. She fears a life she did not ask for. Gasps spread through the circle. The elders shifted, glancing at one another. This was not part of their design. Our people are already fracturing, Akacheta pressed on. Violence has been mistaken for consort, fear for obedience. You say this is the way it has always been, but the way it has always been is beginning to break us. Naya stepped forward then, her voice steady, clear. "I do not stand here to shame you," she said. "I stand to remind you that dignity cannot be taken in the name of survival. If love is not worth defending, then what are we protecting?" The elders did not answer immediately. Wind passed through the circle, stirring cloaks and carrying with it the sound of distant children laughing, an unintentional reminder of what they sought to preserve. At last the eldest among them spoke. He spoke. "Tradition does not bend easily," he said, "but neither does truth disappear when ignored." The council withdrew to deliberate, leaving Akacheta and Naya standing together beneath the open sky. Their future hung suspended, fragile as frost. When the elders returned, their decision was measured, cautious. "We delay judgment," the elder announced. "No second marriage will take place until the spirits make their will known." It was not victory, but it was not defeat. Naya felt Akacheta's hand tighten around hers. For the first time in many seasons, hope stirred, not as a promise, but as a possibility. And sometimes that was enough. Time moved strangely after the council's decision, as though the world itself hesitated. The tribe waited. Conversations softened. No celebrations were planned. No preparations made for a second marriage. Hope lingered in the air, uncertain and fragile, like frost that might vanish with the morning sun. Naya tried to return to routine, but her body betrayed her in small, unsettling ways. Fatigue clung to her, no matter how long she rested. Food she once loved now turned her stomach. At first, she blamed the stress of recent weeks, the emotional toll of standing before the council and risking everything she had left. But the days passed, and the feeling did not fade. One morning, as pale light crept into the homestead, dizziness overtook her. She steadied herself against the wall, breath shallow, heart racing. Akacheta noticed immediately, his concern cutting through his own weariness. "The healer," he said without hesitation. Naya wanted to protest. She had knelt before the healer so many times before, endured hope rising only to be gently set aside again. But Akacheta's gaze held quiet certainty, and she nodded. The healer arrived as the sun climbed higher, carrying her bundle of herbs and charms. She listened carefully, watched even more closely. Her hands, worn with age and wisdom, rested against Naya's abdomen longer than before. Her brow furrowed, not with concern but with focus. Then her expression changed. The saline stretched, thick and trembling. "There is life here," the healer said softly. Naya stared at her, unable to breathe. The words did not make sense, not at first. She had heard too many gentle reassurances in the past. Too many almosts. Her hands trembled as she pressed them to her belly, afraid to believe. Akacheta sank to his knees. Tears streamed down his face, unguarded and unashamed. He laughed once, broken and breathless, then pressed his forehead to Naya's hands, as though grounding himself in the truth of it. "You stayed," he whispered. "You stayed." The news traveled quietly at first, carried in murmurs and widened eyes. Then it spread all at once, rippling through the tribe like fire across dry grass. Women who once pitied her now stared in awe. Elders spoke in low voices, their certainty shaken. Naya carried herself differently now, not with pride, but with peace. The weight she had borne for years lifted, replaced not by triumph, but by a deep, steady gratitude. The miracle was not only the child growing within her. It was the timing. Life had come not when demanded, but when defended. Not as proof of worth, but as a reminder that worth had always existed. Akacheta walked beside her, as if she were made of light, his hand hovering near her back, protective and reverent. He no longer feared the council. The spirits, it seemed, had already spoken, and the tribe, whether ready or not, would have to listen. The elders gathered again beneath the open sky. though this time the air felt different, lighter, unsettled, as if certainty no longer ruled the circle. News of Naya's pregnancy had reached every corner of the valley. It traveled not with celebration at first, but with disbelief. Then quiet reflection. What could not be denied now stood before them. Naya did not enter the council as a woman seeking redemption. She walked with measured steps, her hands resting protectively over her abdomen, her presence calm and unyielding. Akacheta stood at her side, not defiant now, but resolute. The eldest elder spoke slowly, as though weighing each word. "The spirits move in ways we do not command," he said. "We believed patience had ended. We were wrong." Murmurs rippled through the circle, not of resistance, but recognition. The tribe had forced time, and time had refused to obey. Another elder lifted her staff. "For generations, we have told our people that destiny cannot be rushed. Yet we rushed it ourselves." Silence followed, the kind that asks to be honored, not filled. The council spoke then of humility, of listening more closely, of remembering that tradition was meant to guide, not wound. The story of the younger woman, promised unwillingly, was brought into the open at last. Her fear, once hidden behind obedience, was finally acknowledged. "The second marriage is undone," the eldest declared. "No life will be bound without consent. No fear will be disguised as wisdom." Relief washed through the gathered tribe. The younger woman wept openly, freed from a future she had not chosen. Naya watched her with compassion, understanding too well the pain of being silenced. The elders turned back to Naya. "You were never lacking," one said. "We mistook waiting for failure. For that, we bear responsibility." It was not an apology spoken lightly, but it was one spoken truthfully. From that day forward, the tribe changed in ways both small and profound. Women spoke more freely in council matters. Choices were questioned instead of assumed. The elders did not abandon tradition, but they learned to listen when it cracked. Naya was no longer pitied. She was honored, not for carrying life, but for having carried dignity when it would have been easier to disappear. The tribe did not forget the lesson. They bent. Spring came gently to the plains, as if the land itself wished to make amends. Snow receded into soft streams that traced silver paths through the grass. New life rose from the soil, green and persistent, answering the sun without hesitation. In the homestead, the silence that had once weighed so heavily was finally broken. A child's cry rose with the morning light, strong, insistent. "Alif." It carried across the open plains, startling birds from their branches and drawing smiles from those who heard it. Naya held her son close, tears blurring her vision as warmth flooded places that had long known only endurance. Akti Cheta knelt beside her, awe written openly across his face. He cradled the child with reverence, as though holding something seared and fragile beyond measure. When the baby's fingers curled around his own, Akachita laughed softly. Overcome, he carried his son outside into the sunlight, lifting him toward the Skeethby. The plains stretched endlessly before them, no longer cold or indifferent, but full of promise. Pride shone in Akacheta's eyes, not the pride of conquest, but of love defended and earned. Naya watched from the doorway, her heart full in a way she had once believed impossible. She remembered the nights she had questioned her worth, the mornings she had risen beneath the weight of pity. Those memories did not vanish, but they no longer defined her. The tribe came to welcome the child, offering blessings and gifts. Elders spaced gently, their voices softened by reflection. Women, who had once whispered, now laughed beside her. The homestead, once heavy with uncertainty, rang with warmth and belonging. In time the story spread beyond the valley. It was not told as the tale of a woman who finally bore a child. It was told as the story of a warrior who chose love over fear, of a woman who refused to disappear, and of a tribe that learned tradition could grow without breaking. Generations later, elders would still speak of that winter, the one that almost stole something precious. They would tell their children that strength was not found only in obedience, but in the courage to question what harms the heart. Naya had once believed love was not enough, but love, chosen, defended, and endured, had changed everything. And in the soft cries of a newborn carried across the plains, the tribe heard not just new life, but a future reshaped. This is where the story ends, but its message remains. A woman's struggle is never hers alone. The real test is the man who chooses to stand beside her when it matters most. If this story moved you, remember this. Love is not just something we feel. It is something we choose to protect. Thank you, my friend.